Thank you very much. Very happy and honored to be here this morning, and certainly for this occasion. I was excited when I was given the copy of the invitation for two reasons. One, because I think in these times it is very important that we celebrate diversity, as we have all of these raging debates around immigration and other issues. And I'm sure that some of you would not want me to bring that up, particularly in the building that we're having this. The second reason I was excited is when I went to Tilden High School, yeah, you went to Tilden? All right. Probably a couple of years different, but when I went to Tilden High School, I had a crush on a girl named Sandra Thomas, who I thought was gonna finally date me this morning. But it's the wrong Sandra Thomas. That's true. I never got over it. As we gather, and I mentioned Tilden for another reason. When I was in high school, there was a citywide group that was formed by the Board of Education called Panel of Americas. And the idea was they would take students in different schools, and one of each ethnic group, and have you tour and talk about your backgrounds, how you grew up, what it was in terms of your environment that you reacted to, responded to. And they would give you credit for your term that year for being part of this panel of Americans, and you would intern. I interned with the with HRA's commission. And I think that my principal at that time, Joseph Shapiro, put me on it to keep me out of the school because we were leading marches and boycott. He would call my mother every morning to find out how I was doing, to find out if we were going to call a strike that day. I remember we had one boycott because we didn't like the food in the lunchrooms. I mean, it was a very volatile time. But I learned during that time a lot about people that came from different backgrounds and different environments, even different languages. Growing up in Brooklyn at that time, you had as many people from the Caribbean and Puerto Rico and different people of the Jewish faith than you had African Americans. And to be exposed to that not only gave us a social context of how everybody fits in this whole American fabric, it also made us well-rounded and educated to go forth in our life endeavors. Diversity is not a burden on corporations. Diversity is an opportunity for expansion and better work for corporations. Because if you are familiar with the marketplace in which you function, and if you are more aware of those that you are doing your business with, you can more effectively do your business. And I think that many people take the diversity quest and take those that advocate diversity as if they are adding a burden rather than opening an opportunity to those companies to even do better. We've argued that even if you look at the record, you can be more profitable if you're in a private business, if you know more how to cater and market to the people that you are selling to, because you know what appeals to them. So when you have diversity officers like Sandra Thomas, she's the right one at ABC, the wrong one for my old flame there. But when you have her, it helps ABC to have a diverse personnel because they are projecting to a diverse New York. And if the name of the business game is ratings, you can't have a one-dimensional focus and have broad ratings. So I think that part of what we honor today, when we honor these 25 people, are not people that became advocates that put some extra note that burdened companies, but that really helped to expand the community and recognition for the unrecognized, but also expanded the opportunities to do business, whether it be nonprofit or profit, for the companies they served. They ought to be honored on both sides of the column, because unless you understand people, you can't serve them or sell to them, because you have not connected to them. Well, one of the things that I learned is that if you're going to communicate with people, you have to be on the same frequency. And if you're on AM and they're on FM, it's not what you're saying doesn't have value, is that they're not on that frequency. In order to get on that frequency, you have to understand and relate to them. So for these that we honor that have made that part of their life and part of their work, I think that we should be grateful to them. And I think that it is in order what is being done by CSR today for the first time to highlight this area and highlight those that have operated in this area, sometimes with no recognition and no profile at all. One of the things that I have learned in life is that you judge people more by what they do when there is no light than what they do when they're in the spotlight. Everybody behaves well when everybody's watching them. But it is what you do in the quiet, unnoticed moments that really tells us who you really are. And more important than telling us who you are is to tell yourself who you are. It's those quiet, lonely moments. I think Thoreau was the one that said that you judge a man by what he or she does in their solitude. If you think about what you do when nobody's watching, it will most define for you who you are and really what you're about and what captures your attention. And I think that when you find people that, as I went through the list of honorees, find people that in many ways have operated below the radar, below the spotlight, below the headlines, but did the work anyway that we could stop and recognize them, then you'd have to say that these people really mean it, and these people really do it, and it is not an easy task. People tend to not want to go outside their comfort zone. So diversity, as much as it is beneficial, as much as it is profitable, diversity is discomforting to some people because we like to stay with what we know. And we must be challenged to expand for our own good personally and citywide and nationwide. Most of our bigotry, most of our prejudice comes from our fear of the unknown. Martin Luther King used to talk about the basis of racism is the unknown. As long as you can isolate people, you can make them whatever you want to paint the picture of them being, because you're talking to people that don't know better. But if you learn to work together and go to school together and live together, it's hard to demonize and denigrate people when there's a relationship and people can say, but I know people of that race, of that group, of that gender, of that sexual orientation. And they're not like that at all. And I think that that is part of why we honor these awardees today. Because what they have done in their own way is what we need individually and collectively. We ought to be glad that we live in a city that is a city of diversity, but that diversity ought to be reflected in the corporate world, that diversity ought to be reflected in our business community. That should be reflected in how we do business around this city. One of the challenges National Action Network has taken on is dealing with contracts and pension fund investment, money management. We can't have a city that has a one-dimensional race in terms of how the economic flow is, but we can be diverse in everything else. We've got to have diversity across the board. And we must never abandon that desire, that will, and that drive to deal with diversity. If we're in a city that claims to be a melting pot, then it ought to be reflected across the board. And if you look at many aspects of our city, those at the top don't reflect what the mountain is. In fact, in many areas of New York, we still have the challenge, Sandra, that we look like the Rocky Mountains. The higher up you get, the whiter it is. We need to continue to fight for diversity at the top, as we do in the center and at the bottom. I think that it is a challenge that we can leave here today as we celebrate those that have done their work on the ground, because it is that work on the ground that has made this a better city. And it is that work on the ground that must go all the way to the penthouses and to those that hold office. That's why many of us are committed to not shutting the doors on anybody that pursues a life, a legal and a peaceful life, to aspire to be something in this city. That's why there's a statue in the Hudson given by the French to celebrate the abolition of slavery. All of us didn't come here the same way. Some of us came as refugees looking for refuge, others as immigrants looking for a way of life, others enslaved, came as commodities. But we're all here now, and we all are not going anywhere, notwithstanding the wishes of some that have an office at home a few blocks up. I didn't violate you by calling Donald Trump's name. I wouldn't do that. We must continue to fight. Let me say in closing that I also celebrate those that are being awarded, because ultimately the golden light, and I think about this over and over as I get older, and I see my lifelong friend Bill Thompson, former New York City controller, come in, and he's about my age or older. In fact, our age depends on who has the microphone, so since I'm speaking this morning, he's older than me. One of the things that I think, and I challenge people all the time, is that try to be as successful as you can. Try to be prosperous, try to make enough to take care of your family. But remember that the goal in your life ought to be what you do for other than yourself. Because the only thing that will matter when your life is over is what you've done for more than yourself. If you spend your life just trying to make money, to buy a nice house, to have a nice car, when you die, it will not matter to anybody but you. We will put your house on the market. We will drive your car all over the West Side Highway. The only thing that will matter is what you've done for more than you. I've been a minister just about all my life, and I can tell you that the hardest job of a minister is to preach the funeral of an irrelevant person. They ask you to come and deliver a eulogy, and the family's sitting there weeping, and you're supposed to get up and hallucinate a life for them they never lived. Most folks shouldn't even have a funeral. Most folks should go straight from the morgue to the cemetery, because there's nothing anyone can say that they did of value. Ask yourself every day you live, if this is my last day, what can they say about me? What can they say my life meant? What difference did I make in some young person, some senior, my neighborhood, my block, my building. Ask yourself, after you've secured all the things you need for life, what meaning will my life have when it's over? And if you're not satisfied with your own answer, you ought to go to work every day, just giving a part of that day toward that. Thank God these 25 have began answering that, giving their life purpose. No one that is in this program is there because of their income or their assets or where they went to school. They're here because they had a purposeful contribution to the diversity of this city and state. I hope they continue to pursue it, not for those that need to be included, but for them to define why they're on earth and what purpose they fulfill. And for that, I challenge all of us to define for yourself, preach your own eulogy, so you don't have someone like me scratching their head trying to figure out what to say. Thank you and have a great day.